ITX subscribes to AMBest, and as a subscriber, if your company also subscribes to AMBest, when you log into the iCell app, you'll see the AMBetter tab. You click on that tab, it presents you with a decision you can make on the way in. You can select, you can either select one of these options, or you can just click OK to go on to display the entire table. But just for demonstration purposes, let's take a look at what these decisions are. The first one is organization type, where you can select the organization type that you want to limit the display of: fraternals, mutual companies, nonprofits, etc. Also, the country. You got various carriers from countries. You might want to limit the display to Canadian companies if you're in the Canadian market, for example. Next is marketing type. You may be interested in only carriers that have career agents or sell direct, etc. So any of these options you can select. So you can select any of these options or any combination of these options, and those filters will apply going into the table and limit the display to just those selections. Or if you just click OK, then it'll display you a table of all carriers, 1,572 is the current count. Now what's displayed is each line represents a carrier, and there's the carrier name. And across here we have the total direct written premium for 2014 by various product types: so ordinary life and individual annuity, group life, etc. All the way over to the last column is the total direct premium written for 2014. Now, all of the don't really have enough numbers in the AMBest database yet for 2015. So far we're sticking with 2014 figures. All right, there's some columns at the left here that we've added. Tier, and the column we call A, and the column we call T. And there's a little button here you can click to get a definition of what those columns are. So let's just do that. The tier column is a number we've assigned based on size of the carrier, based on size of the total direct premium written for 2014 is what it is. So they vary in size from 1, which is the largest, over $1 billion in direct premium written for 2014, all the way down to 6, which is either no premium written or less than $5 million. So that's a way of being able to select carriers by size. The next column, the A column, there's an A by the carrier line if we have some records in the database of attendees representing that company at various industry conferences. And a T indicates that it's a carrier that ITX is tracking. We're currently tracking the searches for software and services that have been initiated or potentially will be initiated by carriers, and we're currently tracking over 200 carriers. So any carrier with a T beside them indicates that we have information regarding searches for software or services. Okay, so that is the definition of these three little columns. And at the top here, we have filters that can be turned on to limit the display to carriers you may be more interested in. We have the carrier name, a tier number, an A and a T, and a state code. If you select U.S. carriers, for example, you can enter U.S. states, or Canadian carriers, you can enter Canadian provinces. So let's just select, for example, a tier 1. You enter a 1 and hit enter, and a little X appears that indicates that that filter is active. Let's also enter an A. So carriers with attendees, and let's enter a T, carriers that ITX is tracking with searches pending or initiated. All right, so these are all of the tier 1 carriers that have attendees in a database and are being tracked by ITX. The first one is American Fidelity Assurance. Now, what's important here is once you get the carrier record selected, there's two buttons over to the right, Group and Profile. Let me click on Profile to show you what that's all about. Now, it pulls up a display of various panels. At the top is information from AMBetter, the carrier name, address, a hot link to their website, some information here regarding officers, corporate officers, the AMBetter rating, phone number, etc. So that's the top panel. The next panel down is a financial summary, a display of various financial figures by year for the past 5 years, 15 down through 2011. We got the total assets, surplus, policyholder surplus, direct premium written, net premium written, the total in force amount, and the total new business written. This is important if you're contemplating approaching this carrier for some kind of sale. This might give you an indication of how receptive they might be. So if they got a direct premium written or surplus, policyholder surplus has been growing, then they might be more in the market for software services. The next panel down is conference attendees. On this particular carrier is 49 in our database. Displays 3 at a time. You can walk down through them and back up. You can also sort and etc. But this is conference attendees in our database representing this company. The next down is actions, what we call actions, which are open or pending searches for software or services. There's 4 from this company, one closed and one closing and active. If you click the right arrow, it'll show you the last one here, which is an active search. The last panel down is prior history. Any data that's been accumulated over the past number of years by ITX is displayed in the last panel. Any of them that are have too much text to fit in the line, you can click the expand button and it'll expand all of the text so you can read it. Okay, so that is the profile. It's basically all of the information that ITX has in its database for this particular carrier. Now, if we go back and recall, there's also another button called Group. If you locate a carrier that you're interested in knowing more about, in addition to what's displayed in the profile, you can click on Group button, and it'll display all of the carriers that are within that particular carrier's group. For example, American Fidelity Insurance is an operating company. There's another operating company, American Public Life Insurance Company, and then the holding company, Cameron Associates Incorporated. This fourth one here, American Fidelity Group, is a consolidation level that AMBetter has inserted. So there's actually 3 companies there. And for any one of these, you can also get to the profile for that particular carrier. So it gives you a way of, once you've isolated a list of carriers you might be interested in, you can find other carriers that are closely associated with this carrier for further research. Okay, so that is the AMBetter tab. And I want to point out before I leave that you can also, as with any ISO screen, you can sort on any column heading. You just click on the column heading and it'll sort first ascending and then descending. So if you're interested in a carrier that sells a lot of group annuities, for example, you can sort it by that and they filter right to the top. Mass Mutual, John Hancock, very big in group annuities. Same thing with Ordinary Life. Click twice and you get the ones that is selling the most Ordinary Life, as far as direct premium written anyway. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to point out before we leave.